So I've been thinking to myself, what are some other great Super Nintendo games out there? And I've been collecting games for over 20 years now, it seems. And eventually, not every game that you get is great, as we've seen. Eventually you're going to run into garbage. And I feel like at this point, at this juncture in my collection of Super Nintendo games, I've pretty much encountered all the good ones. Like Mario World, Mario RPG, Castlevania 4, Chrono Trigger, Super Metroid, Zelda Link to the Past, and so on and so forth. I mean, I have all these. And these are all great games. And of course there's also like second tier and third tier of good games. But where do I go from here, is the question. I mean, I do have some bad Super Nintendo games, but I was trying to think, what else could I possibly find? And I found one. And it was a franchise that I knew so little about until now. For some reason, it just never struck me to even get into these games. But I was pleasantly surprised after I found the Lost Vikings. Interesting that this game was lost, right? It just kind of occurred to me that this could be a really, really good game. But I didn't know what to expect from it. I didn't know what to think. What kind of game was it? I guess what tipped me off is that I have heard of this game before, but also it is made by Interplay. And Interplay made one of my favorite fighting games, Clay Fighter, and its sequel, Clay Fighter 2 Judgment Clay, both of which are pretty awesome. But The Lost Vikings was made back in 1993. It also had a sequel in, I believe, 1997, Lost Vikings 2, for Super Nintendo. And for some bizarre reason, for years I've always thought it was made from Nintendo 64. Was I wrong? Either way, let's really talk in depth about The Lost Vikings.
Alright, Lost Vikings. Found again. There we go. So when I bought this game, I thought it was kind of one of those like old-fashioned dry RPGs. Listen to the music, you know, it sounds like it, but all of a sudden it just swings into this like Michael Jackson kind of beat, and I just gotta say I was thrilled. And I gotta say another thing, password system, it's only like 4 characters long. That's tremendous. Anyway, let's get to it. One thing I liked about Interplay games is that they have like a nice like humor, like they have a good funny charm to them. Graphics are very, very sharp, very cartoony. It's just a very well put together game. I was just surprised at how good it really was. It's got like some good humor, a little bit of dialogue, not too much, you know. And the big thing about this game is that you actually control not just one character, but all 3. And just by the switch of the R or L button, you can switch between all 3 guys. And they all have different powers in which you have to, you know, kind of harness their different powers together. Like this guy can run really fast and he can jump. Obviously he can jump. This guy here, he has a bow and arrow and a sword. He's kind of more of the fighter. And you see the little tombstone there from the enemy. That was pretty cool. And then this third guy, he's just a big galoot with a shield. But also, he can float! Oop, got hit. But yeah, see, he blocks all projectiles. Very unique. Graphics, I gotta say, are great in this game. I mean, even this little sequence right here looks really cool. What I really like about this game is that it's actually kind of like a platformer, but also it's a puzzle kind of game. Because you have these 3 different guys with 3 unique abilities, but not all of them can do the same thing. So you kind of really have to work together as a team. Like this guy takes out the enemies, this guy kind of like floats around and does his thing. I think this guy clearly does most of the legwork, pun intended, because he can jump and everything and run. But these are things that he could do that his teammates can't. I really, really enjoyed this game a lot. as you see, you got to work together as a team. Very clever. Another thing I really like about Lost Vikings is the music. It's just this very like awesome, hip, early 90s soundtrack. Very high tech for the time. And it's just a great, great concept. I love the, they're literally Lost Vikings. They follow the concept very well. I mean, these are Vikings probably from, from like the Middle Ages or something that literally got lost in time. And here they are, they're in space stations, they're on alien planets, they're in this wacky sewer factory. It's a great, great game.
So that's really all there is to say about the Lost Vikings. As you've seen, though, it's a very, very, very good game. It's very clever. It's a platformer, a puzzler. I really enjoyed the fact that you have to work together with these three very unique kind of characters. And they each have their own special powers. You got to have sort of use your smarts to get through the game. It's just a very polished game on all fronts. With the music and the graphics, and certainly the humor in it is very good, and obviously the puzzle solving and everything about it, the controls. It's just a very well put together game made by Interplay, and I certainly highly recommend the Lost Vikings then. But with that said, I'd like to get into some other notes before I conclude this video. As you know, that it's been several months since the last Ethos review. I believe the last video was back in March, actually, for MLB The Show 11 for PS3. And it's been a long time. It's been, about 4 or 5 months now since the previous video, and well, I've been quite busy. And the reason is, I got married. That's right. In May, my wife and I were wed, and I must say that we are very happy. And I thank you all for your continued support of the website and the channel. I know things have slowed, but we're back in business. And as you see, this video sort of commemorates that. So I thank you for your support. And speaking of support, I actually met a fan the other day in the very same video game store that I bought the Lost Vikings in. A gentleman named Dan came up to me and he said, "I'm really a big fan of your videos and Ethos reviews, and I gotta say, I was blown away. It was really, really nice to meet you, and I really appreciate all the kind words." And he's a subscriber here to Ethos. His name is Dan2. I say keep that name in your mind, because he plans on making video game reviews in the future as well. And I certainly wish him luck with those endeavors. And certainly any fan of Ethos is a fan of mine, and definitely want to lend him my support as well. So, with that said, it was a pleasure meeting you, Dan, and there's a little shout out for you. So. Anyway, so now we're back in business here at Ethos Reviews, and back to full steam, and as you see with this new video, and certainly the website will be rejuvenated as well. But once again, thank you for all the support out there, and until then, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.